I would definitely recommend to purchase the DIY Voile split kit and to split your board. Hello. What up, everybody? We're back with another video. My name is Noah, your gracious host. My friends and family call me Nobi, hence the name Nobi Lobi of the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. If you watch these videos and you gain any sort of entertainment or educational value from them, I would greatly appreciate it. What I do here is I'm kind of just figuring it out as we go along, but I splitboard, I fly fish, I skateboard, and I make things that enable me to do those activities on a budget as I work my way through engineering school, and it's pretty exciting. So without further ado, let's talk. The DIY splitboard for under $200. This is a Voile kit, a kit that Voile sells. I think it's about $160. All we need to do, chop your regular snowboard in half, mount up those bindings, and you go for a splitboard. That is what I want to talk about today. This was the first video that I made on this channel, was building that splitboard. It's probably been my most successful series so far, which is awesome, and I am so excited for splitboarding this season. It is September right now, but I am absolutely frothing and chomping at the bit, and I cannot wait for the snow to start falling. But that is what we're doing today. I have ridden it for a whole year. All last season I rode the splitboard. Probably took it out about 5 or 6 times. I was just getting my bearings, just getting started. I don't have avalanche training, formal avalanche training yet, and so this is just sort of my candid opinion, what I think, my plans might be for going forward. And yeah, join me in the rest of the video as we talk about the Voile DIY split kit. First of all, it is $200, and likely you already have an old board and bindings. If you are to the level with your snowboarding where you want to get into the backcountry, you likely are on your 3rd or 4th snowboard, hopefully. And so you probably already have the board and the resort bindings. And the great thing about the kit is it turns the resort bindings also into splitboarding bindings. There are definitely some upsides and some downsides from the DIY kit. It is definitely not as comprehensive. It does not get you to the level where you could like do alpine ascents, I don't think. But the great thing about the split kit is it's a cheap way to get yourself into the backcountry and get your bearings, start to learn. Because the reality is, if you don't have a splitboard, you probably haven't been in the backcountry too much. So on your first times getting out there, you're not going to be climbing to the top of Mount Everest. And that is where the DIY splitboard really fits its niche well for the beginner to intermediate level backcountry rider, because it's not full featured. It does not have everything that you would need to have to keep yourself safe on an icy exposed face. But the barrier to entry is quite low. I wouldn't say very low, but comparatively to a factory splitboard setup, it is a great deal, and it gets you out there. That's as simple as it is. You need a vehicle to get out there, and for $200, you can't really beat it. A couple of the downsides of the split kit opposed to a factory setup. Your bindings is one of the main ones. So regular splitboarding bindings, they have a touring up setting where the high back actually goes to an obtuse angle. And regularly your binding high back is about here when you're riding down, depending on how aggressive you like it. But it actually turns out to an obtuse angle, like I said. And so when you're striding forward, that high back lets your stride and your leg and your knee straighten out more. And so that's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of energy on the uphill. And so that is one of the major downfalls of the DIY split kit, is your binding is not able to go to that negative lean. Another huge benefit of only spending $200 on your splitboard and your bindings is there are so many auxiliary items that you need to travel safely in the backcountry. You need touring poles, you need avalanche gear, a beacon, a shovel, and a probe. You need avalanche training. You need a backpack that can store all of your avalanche gear. all of these things really add up. And the wonderful thing that I have been able to utilize through saving money on my Splitboard is I've been able to, over the past year and a half, sort of amass those items one by one. And if I would have shelled out $1,500 just to get the Splitboard, just to be blindsided because I didn't do enough research, that I had to buy skins, $200, poles, $200, a backpack, $150, avalanche gear, all those three things, the beacon and shovel probe, $400. I don't know what it is. I'll add it up on the screen. That's a lot of money. Plus the $1,500 to just buy your factory board. And so keep that in mind when you're thinking and you're budgeting out how you are going to buy this vehicle to get you into the backcountry. That is probably the biggest benefit, is that you can save money so you can buy more comprehensive gear that will last through your DIY split kit. So you buy the split kit, you get all of your avalanche gear, 1 year, 2 seasons, 3 seasons in, your split kit's not cutting it anymore. Then you can buy the factory split, and all of that gear that you have amassed is now applicable to that factory split. And so that is probably the biggest pro of the DIY kit is that right there. A few more of the downsides. So you have to drill through the base of your snowboard and cut through the center of your snowboard, essentially exposing the core, exposing the wood. And so what the kit instructs you to do, and what you obviously should do, is seal that up with an epoxy. And that's all fine and good, but you still have exposed holes on the core. I'll play some video of what that looks like. And so what you have to do is you have to patch all those holes. And it comes with little discs to stick in there. That's great. Me personally, I didn't drill my holes deep enough, so the discs stuck out as well. So I had to go a separate route, and I bought myself some metal bond P-Tex for the bottom layer to bond to that nut on the metal that you can see there. And then you have the regular P-Tex over top of that. And that was all well and good, and it looked great when it was done. But after my first, second, third tour, when you rip the glue from your skin and you separate your skin from the glue at the top of your run, what happened to me was it pulled some of those patches out. And while it was epoxied underneath, it was watertight. That's just a little annoying. And so that's one of the biggest downsides. You have a Swiss cheese base on your snowboard, which isn't the best. And so definitely, I would assume if you have the means to cut your snowboard in half, you likely have the means to patch that board back up. And just know that you might have to do that a couple of times a season, or maybe you just live with it like I did. I rode on the empty holes for a couple of tours, and now it's preseason again, and so I'm just gonna run back and patch those up. So that is one of the biggest downsides of the DIY split kit. A further downside that I sort of touched on a little bit is the icy alpine face. And so where the factory split board comes into play with that scenario is you actually have a metal edge on your inner sidewall, I guess you would call it. So along the cut, there is a metal edge that actually surrounds each ski completely. And where that comes into play is that sharp edge is able to cut into ice. As you know from regular snowboarding on your mountain, you need sharp edges if it's an icy day out. And so the factory split does not have that. You just have a P-Tex edge and a wood core up against the ice, and that is not sufficient in those sorts of conditions. So that is another downside of the DIY split. If you see yourself in less than 2 seasons, because you can really get your value out of it below the tree line and even above the tree line in the right conditions. So if you see yourself really trying to get out there, maybe you're a mountaineer already and you want a new vehicle so you can snowboard down, you might want to go for a factory split board, because if you know you're going to be on those exposed faces, you're definitely going to want that extra stability that the metal edge can bring. Another downside, I feel like this is all downsides, but I want to sort of cover the bases and sort of let you know all the things, all the little nuances that you might be getting into. You lose some of your torsional power in your snowboard, as you might guess. So you cut your board in half, and what that does is your torsional power is your ability to load up your board in the, I guess you call that the X direction. And so when you have your bindings and you sort of load them this way, or you want to rock it to this side and then hit your turn like that, you lose some of that response and power in your torsional responses, because you only have your bindings and your clips holding you together. You don't have that full response curve across the entire board. That's another downside. I personally did not notice too much of that. I think maybe 1 or 2 turns, they've just felt a little off when I was riding last season. But for the most part, I'd say 90% of the time, I just felt like I was on a regular snowboard, and it honestly blew me away how good it worked. I was not expecting it, especially because the board I ended up splitting was my board from when I was like 15, and that is completely blown out, and I have probably ridden that board at least 500 days on the hill. And so I was completely shocked that it rode like my regular board. But just know that you do sacrifice a little bit of that torsional response, and also your flex profile. So if you have a medium flex, you might go down to a medium soft flex. If you have a very stiff board, you might be going down to a medium stiff board. And that is another downside, unless you are prepared for that. Now this video is getting a little bit long, so I want to wrap it up. The major upside for me that outweighs all of those cons that you just heard is that it has got me into the backcountry. Plain and simple. That's where I've always wanted to go, and now I have a vehicle to get me there. I can do it, and it's freaking amazing. I love it. I have really fallen in love with the peace and the serenity and the hike up, honestly. It's honestly incredible. And so if you're on the fence and you don't have a ton of money, but you have the know-how, or you have someone that's willing to help you, I would say definitely consider splitting your board. Just know there are some limitations, but the larger upside from those limitations is that you're getting out there, you're learning, and you're getting that much closer to where you want to be. And so I would encourage you to do it if you feel inclined. If not, you can always just buy one. Maybe look for a secondhand factory split, save a little bit of money that way. But this has been my experience with my DIY split board for the past season running it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It was super enjoyable. I'm going to run it all this season as well, because I just spent all of my money on all those auxiliary items that I told you about earlier in the video. And so I'm going to be running it again this season. I know those limitations are there, and I'm just going to design my tours around those and have a freaking blast of a time out in the backcountry. And yeah, I hope to see you there. So thank you for watching this video. Please leave any comments. I'm happy to chat with y'all if you have any questions or concern about the process or the DIY split kit in general. And yeah, much love, and I will see you guys in the next one.